Hello everybody and welcome back to Cities Skylines for the final episode of this particular series. There's not too much else that I want to do for this city, other than just verify that our traffic issues are solved, and I believe they largely are. There might be a little bit of bus congestion over here, at least for the next little while. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the course of this video. But I also want to finish up zoning this area over here. We currently have a little bit of industrial demand, so let's go ahead and fill that by zoning this up here. Excellent. And I don't exactly know what's going to be following this yet. I need to check the poll. That last I checked was in a dead tie, and if that's the case, then I'll just roll a random number generator and we'll break the tie that way. But I'm not sure if it's going to be that way when I actually check it, which I'll do pretty much immediately after recording this video, which is actually basically not very long before it actually has to go up. So, yeah. You guys are time traveling less than usual right now, so that's nice. Let's check in on our train situation down here. Actually, I want to get rid of these abandoned structures first. There we go. Let's check in on this train situation. No, this looks perfectly fine. The trains appear to be completely under control at this point. So that is wonderful. I'm glad they know where each of these tunnels go, because I definitely don't. I'd have to check the underground map, but that's okay. So we need a little bit more in terms of our residential here, so we'll go ahead and zone that up through here. I do want to think about eliminating some of this power line here. Is that okay? At the very least, we could do that, and that's definitely okay. So we'll do that. Perfect. And we'll just zone this all up through here. Yeah, we're going to lose a little bit due to elevation differences here, but that's ultimately okay. We aren't surprised by this. I don't believe that was zoned. Okay. Now it is, so that is wonderful. So we'll just let that proceed for the time being. And hopefully, we'll get some jobs over here. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to do one thing last episode that I completely forgot to do. And that was that I wanted to do Industry 4.0 here, which increases the production output of our industries by 50%. And it does reduce workplaces by 30% per zoned industry, but it does require that we have well and highly educated citizens for our industries. So that is going to be something that we're going to do. And hopefully, that will take effect relatively soon and won't just absolutely break everything. It would be very awkward if it did, but regardless, this will be the final episode of this series. It is time at this point to move on. Want to check in on this situation here. This is interesting, to be sure. I really question the people who are exiting here and then just driving straight and coming up here. I'm wondering why they're doing that. Why are they just driving straight here rather than turning at this intersection? That's the question. Like this guy. Why? Why would you do this? Why would you get off here and then get on here? The only thing I can imagine is that these are maybe too close together for the pathfinding to move them over into the next lane, and so they're forced down over into here. I don't know. Maybe there's just not enough space for a lane change here. Regardless, it seems to be okay, so that's fine. There's an abandoned structure down over here. Although I am noticing since we switched over, we do seem to have a lack of educated citizens up here. Right? Yeah. We're lacking in well-educated currently, and some highly educated. So to that end, I am going to put in a quick university structure up here. Now, this is not necessarily ideal, but we'll put that in there. And I want to check to see how this is looking for high schools. I really do think that we need another high school over here, and I'd like to put it in there. For elementary schools, it's looking pretty decent, but I'll put in an elementary school up here. Okay, so that'll help us create more educated workers for these jobs down here, and that will be absolutely fantastic. We are, of course, cruising forward on speed 3 so that we just have as much demand coming in as possible. And that's great. And these are 6 citizens. Yeah, I'll just leave them be for now. We'll get rid of those, and we're lacking in some educated workers down here as well. Let's check our education down here. Elementary looks good. High school looks good. University, of course, does not look good. And I'm kind of interested in just plopping a university right there. Now, up here we've got the Island City Institute, and that should serve this location as well as this location nicely. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's actually pretty okay. We could maybe get away with another university, like somewhere up here. It might be useful. We could drop it, say, here. And I guess that's what I'll do. Just to make sure that we've got good education going through. And I do want to check our high schools. All looks good. With the possible exception of over here. And I'm wondering if we just want to drop in another one. I think I do. Because I feel like these are overloaded. Yeah, these are actually quite overloaded. So we'll drop in another high school, and let's check our elementary. I think we need another one of those as well. We'll plop that right there. Excellent. How's that doing? 49 out of 300. This one's at 185 out of 1,000. Okay, sounds good. These are filling up. Good. Good. Let's check in on this street. Not really a big issue down here, except for this bus, you know, kind of violating traffic laws a little bit. And to that end, I actually do want to go into our traffic manager settings. And I want to try, now that we have, let's see here, these policies set, I want to set our reckless drivers percentages back to minor complaints, which is the default. Like that. And just see if problems like that one are not anywhere near as widespread, which I suspect that will indeed be the case. Excellent. So, I mean, we're still going to be lacking in educated workers over here, but that is a problem that will take care of itself over time. The question is, do we have that kind of time? This one's up to 566 students and 233, so we should probably consider constructing another elementary school a little bit up this direction. And I'm actually going to put another one up here as well. And then I'm going to put a high school up here, and then another high school over here. Like that. Now we are going to need power over here, and we're just going to run this power line somewhere over like that. This power line can run over like this, and those are just temporary. Those will get removed as we fill this in. Excellent. And yeah, we're going to have more and more abandoned industrial structures for the next little while, because we're going to need more educated workers over here. And that is, of course, why we're just spamming out the schools. Excellent. How's this university doing? 269. This one up here is at 460. This one is at 0, which is slightly surprising, if I'm honest. And our institute is at 1554. Sounds good. And yeah, we're not surprised that we're seeing abandoned structures over here. We need more education to be pumped out. But that is what we are, of course, working on. And yeah, this is going to continue. This is absolutely going to continue. So we're not going to see any industrial demand for a little while. That's okay. I mean, this is all going to be office up here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and just zone all of this office. Just because it's not going to be developed for a while. So we'll get that done there. No more office to be zoned. And we can definitely do away with this at this point. Can't quite do away with this power line, which makes me sad. Actually, we can. We can do away with this power line. We're connected up here now. So that's excellent. We'll go ahead and get rid of that. This one is still necessary, as is all of this up here. For now. Not for too much longer, though. Not for too much longer. So the question is, are we going to have any more traffic issues? Potentially here. We'll potentially have more traffic issues here. I'm noticing that there's a lot of people turning on red, turning left on red, and I'm wondering... That's the option that we want. We want them to turn at red traffic lights, but we don't want that to apply to left and right turns between one-way streets. That should fix that issue that I was seeing. Yes, this is behaving much more the way I wanted it to. Still a little bit of careening there. There doesn't appear to be protected turns or anything like that in Traffic Manager, which does make me a little bit sad, but this also makes me a little bit sad. We'll see if this cleans up. If not, we'll have to try to figure out what we want to do about this. This doesn't look like it's that big of an issue for the time being. Is this a traffic light? It is a traffic light. I'm a little surprised it's that messy as a traffic light. Okay. How is the traffic light handling this three-way turn? Okay, so this is green now. Red and green. Yeah, that was red. But this is about how I expected it to handle it. This isn't exactly the way I expected this intersection to play out. That's for sure. And we're not shocked, of course, at the number of non-educated workers being... well, the number of not educated workers available is very high, and we want more educated workers. That's definitely a thing that we want. And the reason I mostly did that was for the increased throughput. We need more raw materials if we want to rely less on import. Or rather, not raw materials, but consumer goods. Okay, there is a little bit of residential demand, so let's go through and put in another area of residential here. Excellent. This is going to be overkill on the residential demand for sure, but that's okay. And there we go. Another area of residential in. More commercial demand. Okay, we'll put an area of commercial up here, as we discussed in the last episode. Actually, I'm going to put it up here for right now. And then we'll need to think about removing some of these power lines up here. So I would love to see commercial developments up through there, where we can hopefully start thinking about removing some of these power lines. That would be great. So let's check in on... which intersection was that? That was this intersection. And it does appear to have cleaned up some. So that's great. And yeah, we're not surprised that there's just tons of abandoned structures in our industrial zones. This is 100% expected. We have high demand, suddenly very high demand, actually, for educated workers. And if we look at our actual education here, where do we see education? I want to see just how many... oh, it's right here. So we can see that 10% of us are uneducated. Make that 11. 17% of us are educated. 18% are well-educated, and 55% are highly educated. We want to continue that trend. Excellent. Which school type is this? This is for high schools? These high schools are not full. There's a fair amount of capacity in each of them, so I don't actually think we need additional high schools up there. Instead, let's take a look at our power grid here. This, of course, indicates that we can remove this section of power line now that we've gotten some commercial developments up through here. This has to remain for the time being. So let's put in additional commercial space back here. Like so. Wonderful. Okay, that'll do for now. And let's continue bulldozing some of this. Definitely high traffic over here. That was always expected, that this would be a pretty high traffic area. All of those airplanes. And of course there's also the conveniently located, if I can even find it in this, the conveniently located cargo train terminal. Excellent. I want to double check our train system. Nope, that is completely under control. I am 100% confident at this point that we will have no further train issues, unless we start having just ludicrous amounts of train demand for imports. But I don't think that that's going to start happening. So that is, of course, wonderful. Let's just come up over here, and we're going to need another row of commercial over here. I can already tell that. The commercial demand is beginning to come up again. We've just had such high commercial demand for a while. Let's do something like that. And then wait for now until we have this development done, until we hook up here, and then hopefully this connects, and we can take out this power line in its entirety. That is the ideal scenario there. What's going on here? Too few services. Okay, sure. Not going to do anything about that if I'm honest. Yeah, this intersection is fine. It's just... It's not ideal, but it'll get the job done. So I'm okay with that. We do need to get rid of that structure. I love the polluted hospital. It's just absolutely wonderful. And yeah, overall, I think this is pretty decent. This tunnel underneath here definitely cleaned up this intersection. No doubt about that. And what do we got going on here? Left-hand turns is what we've got going on here. That does make things awkward, doesn't it? I'm beginning to think that this should be a traffic light. So we'll put in a traffic light there, and that should solve that issue. There we go. Problem solved. As far as this up here goes, that looks completely fine. What's going on over here? We've just got a bit of a bus backlog. That's not a huge deal. Still a fair amount of buses on this line. We may want to consider dropping this line down to, say, 30 vehicles. Like that. And that should reduce some of that congestion while not substantially reducing our actual passenger throughput here. Because we've got a lot of buses just sitting around waiting for buses to get out of the way. So, yeah. That's definitely a thing that we want to work on. This is quite a lot of traffic up here, but it seems to be moving along. This is all traffic lighted, right? Yes, it is. It looked for a moment like it wasn't, but it definitely is. So that's fine. Yeah, this will clean up, I think. It's just, this is a heavy traffic area. That's to be expected. So let's just go ahead and fill in another row of residential here. And then we'll check on our commercial to see if we can remove those power lines yet. Would be great if we could. But we'll just do something along the lines of this. Okay, commercial, how you doing? Yeah, I think we can effectively get rid of this. Perfect. So that, of course, means that we can zone this up here commercial. And all of this down here commercial as well. Fantastic. And while we're at it, we may as well zone this final area here, residential. And we'll just let this play out. We may or may not have the demand to fill all of this just yet until the very end here. But this is pretty much this city completed at this point. There isn't too much else that I want to do with this design. We've pretty much solved all of the issues inherent with it, which is actually kind of shocking. I mean, there's going to be a couple things like this, right? That's going to continue. It's not horrid. It's not perfect. But it's not horrid. It's mostly under control. And that is great. Oh, hello. We've got a power issue. Is this actually a water issue? Yes, this is actually a water issue. So we're going to put in another pump over here. It's a water issue manifesting as a power issue. I'm going to put in another connection up here for redundancy. And there's that solved. Fantastic. Water up here is still an issue. Okay, now we're good. Garbage over here is dealt with. Sewage. Yeah, that's not super shocking. We'll put an advanced eco water treatment plant somewhere up here. Probably going to put it here. And then we'll just connect that in. We will, of course, require more sewage dumping. That should solve this problem. And there we go. Fantastic. Are we going to need anything else for the rest of this expansion? I don't know. There's not that much else. We've gotten rid of all of our power lines over here. That's great. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Now, we definitely do have a bit of an issue over here with garbage collection. Let's take a quick look at what we could do about that. We could drop a recycling center right here where there's already a gap. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to drop a recycling center here, and that will send out 15 garbage trucks. That should handle that issue. Very nice. Very, very nice. So, I think at this point, let's just head into cinematic camera mode. Aw, yeah. And in these last couple of minutes here, while we are apparently spiraling around that intersection, in these last couple of minutes here, I'd like to discuss what my original goal was and how well I feel like I achieved that. My initial goal was, with the concentric circles, to create a kind of sci-fi feeling city. I'm not sure I ever actually said that, and I'm not sure how successful I ended up being. We ended up creating, I think, a modern city. There's no doubt about that. I'm not sure that it really ended up being particularly sci-fi. I was trying to get it a little more sci-fi with the helicopters to, like, airlift people around, but ultimately I ended up backing off of that because helicopters were apparently just so large of a priority for our pedestrians. There are all the metro systems and the metro lines and things like that, but ultimately I feel like those are less utilized than they really could be. So, yeah, there are some definite issues with this city, but overall, I feel like I got this cleaned up much more successfully than I have in the past, and to a large degree, I think that comes down to Traffic Manager giving me more options to work with and just generally making traffic that little bit smarter. So I'm definitely very glad that we had Traffic Manager for this, and any future playthroughs will definitely happen with Traffic Manager. There's no doubt about it. Now, one thing to note is there's very little parking in this city. It didn't end up actually being an issue as far as I can tell. Ooh, that's quite a sweeping shot. But yeah, there's not hardly any parking available. Almost everything is running trees for some level of sound protection. This intersection here is one of the ones that I'm not particularly proud of, if I'm honest. This is not anything that we built over here, that's for sure. But overall, I'm very, very happy with the fact that we were able to sort out the traffic issues without resorting to anything too awfully extreme. We didn't have to resort to much of anything, actually, at all. And that is wonderful. I'm very, very happy about that. We were able to sort out the trains, mostly with me realizing that I needed to control which side of the tracks that the trains merged into. We were able to supply all of these cities despite some of them literally being an island that have no outside connections other than the metro system. And people managed to smuggle cars in there to a pretty extreme degree in some cases. So there's definitely more traffic in a lot of these locations than I planned for. And that's just a quirk of how the game works, right? Traffic spawns at buildings, and not having connections to the outside world doesn't mean people can't get cars in. That's definitely something I should have considered. There's no doubt about that one. But overall, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. There's some locations, like the old town with the castle, that I'm really, really pleased with. I'm also pleased with the fact that we managed to maintain that one's traffic without upgrading to these 6-lane roads that we have basically everywhere else. That I'm also very happy about. I'm not so happy about the hordes of pedestrians at every single bus stop in the big hub. That is something that, if I wasn't stopping this series now, I would probably look to address next. But ultimately, I don't think that there's all that much to be gained from that. So overall, I'm reasonably content with the final state of this city, other than those pedestrians just piled into those bus stops. And in reality, maybe having a few metros in those areas would have helped. In the future, I will definitely plan for these larger thoroughfares, and the fact that you unlock them after metros, I think anyway, or at least I started using them after I put in metros, definitely makes things a little awkward, but lessons were learned, and things will definitely be done a little bit differently in the future. And there will be more Cities Skylines content on this channel, just not immediately. However, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next time, in this time slot, I actually haven't checked yet. It's going to be, last I checked, either Hearts of Iron or Europa. And we'll find out very shortly. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.